Welcome to My Life. I'm John Ochins, and we're honored to have Roberta Salisbury with us today. Welcome, Roberta.
Thank you.
Roberta's been a resident of Lake Orion for over 40 years. She's been a service officer for the North Oakland VFW Post 334 for 3 years, and she's also a member of the Ladies Auxiliary. She's served 2 tours of duty in the U.S. Navy. She's a member of the Honor Guard around here. She's involved with elk hunting and deer hunting and fishing and all kinds of things. And by the way, while she was in the service, she was in the handgun .45 caliber competition in 1972. And not only that, but she won an award for playing tennis as well. Maybe my first question should be, what don't you do? Well, it's been a pleasure having you with us. And maybe the first thing we should point out in connection with the VFW and you being a service officer, that's a big job.
Yes, I volunteered. It's a big job. I enjoy what I do. I like getting veterans in the right spot, who to talk to, who to see, well, getting their benefits, because they deserve it, especially our Vietnam vets. There's so many types of diseases out there now that it grows every day, and they just don't know or where to go. So that's where I come in. I go to take classes every month, go to some training and stuff, and then I come back and report to the post and tell them what I've learned and how I can help these guys.
I was going to say there's a lot more to that job than giving out names and phone numbers. You do take classes.
Yep.
You need to keep yourself up to date because it's an ever-changing thing.
Yes.
You even, as I understand it, you even sometimes take people to doctor's appointments.
Yes, I've taken guys down to Detroit to make sure they got their appointments. I've taken people over to the service officer in Oakland County, our county rep, taken them over there and had the paperwork process get going, and so they can get an appointment at the hospital down in Detroit to find out what they're eligible for and what the VA can do for them.
Well, thank goodness for people like you. Now, not only that, but you're involved in other projects over there at the VFW. I believe they collect labels to support. Yeah,
we collect box top labels and Camel Soup labels for the National Home for Widows and Orphans. It's in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. We have the state of Michigan has 5 homes which we are responsible to take care of the maintenance, upkeep, and this helps by vans and equipment for these kids. Most of these kids don't have parents, or they have no family relatives, or the mother or father were killed in war in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they have nowhere to go. And we provide food, clothing, shelter, education. These kids get top education. They're involved in 4-H projects and FFA, and there's money there set aside for them to go to college. So if they want to go to college, they can go to college. And a lot of these kids come back and they work at the National Home.
You know, you don't hear much about that. That's a place that's been around for a while, though, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been around since, I believe, World War I. There's 400 some acres. They're like a community within a community. They have their own fire department, they have gymnasium, they have a church, they have homes, they have fishing places for these kids to go fishing and camping, and they keep them involved in the community too out there.
Mm-hmm. And you're in the Honor Guard.
Honor Guard,
Tell
yes.
us a little bit about that.
The Honor Guard, we do parades, but our biggest project for the Honor Guard we do the last ceremony for a deceased veteran. We go either to the private funeral or private cemeteries, or we actually go out to Great Lakes and perform the last part for a veteran. We do a 21 gun salute and we play taps.
Just out of curiosity, are you the only woman in that particular organization there?
Yes, I am.
In the Honor Guard?
In the Honor Guard, yes, I am.
Okay, very good. I know we were chatting about this a little bit before we sat down, how there are a lot of women who come and for some reason or other they don't stay very long, and you wish they would.
Yeah, I wish they would. There's benefits. They want the women to stay. They want their reaction, what they've done, how can we help them. That's a big push with the VA right now, because women take up, I think, approximately 20% of the active duty personnel in the reserves. And At first, they didn't know what to do with us. Now they have separate units at the hospitals just for the women. They've come a long ways in the last 10 or 15 years.
But it's like with a lot of other organizations. There was a time when they weren't as welcome as they are now.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true.
They're more easily recognized now and certainly welcome to come by the VFW.
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. We have one that's on active duty, and she is my niece, and she did I believe 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. She's in the U.S. Army, so I'm very proud of her. And I have another niece that's on the USS Ronald Reagan, stationed in San Diego. So
there's a strong military ethic in your family.
yes,
isn't
I'm
there?
3rd generation Navy.
Are you really?
Yes. Yep. An uncle in World War II, and an uncle during the Korean War. So.
Wow. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Roberta Salisbury and your life. Okay, where were you born?
Sandusky, Michigan. I'm a daughter of a farmer. We dairy farmed all my life until I joined the Navy when I was 18 years old.
Did you ever try and trace your family back at all, just to see who your first ancestor was who stepped foot in this country?
No, I haven't. I know we're Norwegian, part Norwegian, through my grandparents. That's about all I really know.
Did you know your grandparents?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Did you know any of your great-grandparents, just out of curiosity?
No. No.
Okay. Now, you said that your parents were farmers.
Yes.
And did your grandparents live with you by any chance?
No, we had 2 farms. We had my grandfather's farm, and then we had his mother's farm. So we had her old farmhouse, which we modernized up and kept it up to date, and that's where we stayed. And we were only a mile apart, so we farmed about 200 acres our own, and then we leased land and to finish up our farming for the year and stuff.
Now, can I assume that you got up pretty early most mornings?
Pretty most, yeah.
Did you say they were dairy farms?
Yep, we milked 125 cows.
Wow. Did you have some automatic milkers to help
Yes.
you out? Thank goodness for that, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Where'd you go to grade school at?
Actually, I went to grade school in Mayville, Michigan, and graduated from Mayville in 1970.
Was it a very large school?
No, we had 68 kids in my class.
Wow. And what about your parents? Did they have any education beyond high school, or?
My dad did go to Michigan State for ag, back when Michigan State was more agricultural than it was today. He just did like short courses and then came back to the farm. So he went on. Both my parents graduated from Mayville High School. So.
Was your dad in the military at all?
My dad was in the Marine Corps during Korea.
During Korea.
Yep.
And what kind of experience did he have over there?
He was a gunner on a troop transport. He handled the .50 caliber when they went ashore. He was the Marine man that sat up in that little, I don't know what they call him, but he was the one who manned the .50 caliber and shot towards the island or wherever they were landing.
Did he have some good stories to tell?
He had some pretty good stories about training and guys getting off and the water would be too deep, and and he had some pretty good stories. Going out for spaghetti dinner and things like that.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about your experiences in school, but we have to take a break right now.
Okay.
So hang in there and we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, don't forget you can purchase DVDs of your favorite shows from OCTV, whether it's Minutes by Minute, Our Community Access, or Connie's Kitchen. Just call the station. Our number is 248-628-9658. And enjoy watching all of our shows on OCTV.
Back with Roberta Salisbury. You were telling us about your schooling in Mayville, Michigan, and smaller class, etc.
Yeah.
Living on a farm. What did you guys do for fun in Mayville, Michigan when you were growing up?
What did we do for fun? Mostly just went to the movies when we had time. I did a little hunting on the farm. We had lots of land just to wander around. When my senior year, I talked him into having the boys' basketball team teach us girls how to play basketball. And so that was kind of a fun thing to.
Well, what an outlandish idea that was.
You know, back then we didn't have a gym class or nothing, and they had built a new high school, and I thought, that'd be pretty cool. Why don't you teach us how to play basketball?
Well, tell me more about that. Did they go ahead and do it?
Yeah,
How did they take to that?
Well, what we did was we asked for girls that wanted to go and learn how to play, and we had a couple of guys that showed us how, and then we had a fun night at the gym, and we actually played against the women teachers. It was pretty fun. We just had a good time.
Did they start thinking seriously about having a girls' basketball team?
I think a few years later they did. They started a gym class, and then they got into the program up there with the Thumb to compete against the other schools after I left.
What year did you graduate from high school?
1970.
1970. So the Vietnam War was pretty much going hot and heavy while you were in high school. What was going through your mind about that when you were thinking about your future?
I always wanted to go in the service, and I had a couple of cousins that were all actually serving in Vietnam while I was doing my last year of school. And I talked to them when they got back, and just more or less got their feel of what the military was like. And with my dad and my uncles being in the service, my dad said, well, you can go. He said, but I don't want you to go in the Marine Corps. You could just pick something else besides the Marine Corps. He said, it's just too tough. I said, okay. So I picked the Navy. And they signed my papers, and off I went.
So did you go as soon as you graduated?
No, I went in January of '71.
I see. And where was your first, where was basic training at?
Bainbridge, Maryland. Real nice place. I liked it. I got stationed there after boot camp for 18 months, and then I was transferred to Pearl Harbor, and I did 2 years at Pearl, and then came back from Pearl, did schooling in Great Lakes, and was stationed at Detroit Recruiting Command for clerical work.
What was your specialty?
Mostly clerical. Kids. When I was stationed in Detroit, we processed the kids in the morning, and got them on the med line, and got them where they could eat, and then did all their paperwork and got them ready to enlist and get their schooling programs available, and set them up for dates to ship out. Most of these were high school kids that hadn't graduated yet, and they were looking for a school, a specific school, maybe in construction, electrician, nuclear power, advanced electronics, and we would sit down with them, and as long as they had the scoring, we would get them their class and schooling, and they would get sworn in, and then we would send them home, and then they would come back at their designated time and shipped off to boot camp. Now,
you said you were in Pearl Harbor for a while. How long were you there?
2 years.
And what were you doing there?
Actually, I ran the women's enlisted barracks there. I was the second senior. I was a petty officer then, and they didn't have anybody to do the barracks. So as soon as I made third class, they asked me if I would take charge of the women's enlisted barracks. So that's what I did while I was there.
Seeing as how Vietnam was going on, was that a pretty busy place over there?
Very busy. Very busy. Got a lot of ships in and out, a lot of freight in and out. It was a very busy place.
When did you meet your first husband?
I met him in Hawaii. He was the assistant.
While you were assigned there?
While I was assigned there. He was in the Army, and I wanted to play softball, so he was one of the coaches on one of the teams, and I joined their team, and that's how I met my husband, Chris.
He was in the Navy as well?
No, Army.
He was in the Army?
Yep.
I see. Now, the interesting thing about Chris that I know, you probably know some more interesting things, but he was actually in the service during 3 wars, wasn't he?
That's correct.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
He was in during World War II. He never went overseas. He had just got in at a very young age. He went in when I believe he was 16.
A lot of kids did that.
And
yeah.
He was in for 2 years, and that was the very tail end of World War II. And he got out, and he did construction stuff and decided he wanted to go back in, so we went back in. And the Korean War started up, and he went to Korea for the war. Said it was one of the worst things he'd ever seen. It was bitterly cold. Guys with frozen feet, hands. He said the Chinese would blow the whistles and bells, and they would just run at them. He said you could just keep shooting and shooting, and they would just keep coming. And they got off. I can't remember the harbor they got up, but they bombed all the American equipment. He said they just set charges and just blew everything up and got on boats and got off of Korea.
Now, Chris was a little bit older than you,
Yes, he
right?
was.
Okay. And so then he came back to Vietnam.
Yep, he did 2 tours in Vietnam.
Was he in the same branches of the service for all of this?
Yes, he was in and out of the service. He went in, got out, went in, got out. And after Korea, he stayed in, and then he got shipped to Vietnam. He was in mortars. They did the the ammo you drop down the tubes, and I don't know exactly the right phrase for that, but it was in mortars.
Right, okay.
And so he did 2 tours, one from 67 to 68, and then from 70 to 71.
So was it love at first sight?
Pretty much, pretty much.
Okay, how long after that did you guys get married?
I met him in 73, and we got married in June of 74. He got transferred back to Southbridge, and then we got married in June of 74.
Were you guys separated for a while because of your different assignments?
No, because I was stationed here in Detroit, and he was in Southbridge, so we were actually lucky because he almost got stationed in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And we were debating what we were going to do, because I was still on active duty, and they transferred him right up to Southbridge because he was getting ready to retire, and they said he could request his last duty station, so he requested Southbridge.
Ah.
So it worked out great for us.
So other than meeting your husband, what was the most memorable experience about being in the service during that time?
Oh, wow. I think stationed in Hawaii would be, because I seen a change of culture there from coming from the East Coast going all the way to Hawaii, and met a lot of foreigners there, guys off ships that would come in, Australians, New Zealanders, Japanese.
So was the culture more laid back, or how would you describe it?
I don't know if it's more laid back, but it was just different. Their food, their dressing, their religious groups over there, and so I think that was the biggest experience I really thought about.
Okay, very good. We're going to pick up on this conversation when we come back. We're going to take a break. Be right back.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Back with Roberta Salisbury. What we haven't talked about, as far as your service experiences go, are these awards that you won. Let's talk about .45 caliber handguns.
Oh.
How on earth did you get interested in that?
Well, since I like to hunt and fish, I hunted before I went in the service. When I was stationed at Bainbridge, they had an indoor range, and there were a bunch of us girls hanging around and says, we ought to learn to go down to the range and learn how to shoot. And I'm going, well, that's a good idea. I said, I can do a long rifle. I said, but I've never really done handguns. So We took a class. It lasted about 6 weeks. We'd go after work hours and qualified expert with a .45, and then I got on the pistol team there at Bainbridge, and we went to matches around Virginia, Pennsylvania, up to the Naval Academy, down to Virginia. So it was interesting because got to do
wasn't
something.
bad duty, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was great duty. Got to do something I really liked to do, and I enjoyed shooting .45s.
And what about tennis?
Tennis, never really played tennis, and I had a girl that goes, I need somebody to practice with. I'm going, practice what? She goes, well, tennis. I said, well, what do you got to have? And she goes, oh, you got to get this. And so she taught me how to play tennis. I really enjoyed it, got into it, really heavy. A lot of us, there was like 4 or 5 of us that played, practiced almost every night. And we, that one year, the East Coast tournaments were held at Bainbridge, Maryland, and so we all got to go down, and we practiced, and then we went, and we didn't do so well. There was a lot of people who had a lot more experience and a lot better than we did, but it was fun. We got to meet other women from other stations and seeing what they did and how they got the time to practice in the evenings and stuff. So it was a good experience.
Now, what was going through your mind about what am I going to do when I get out of the service?
I was going to stay in for 20 years. To be honest with you. And when I got married, it was like my husband, we bought a house, and he goes, what are you going to do? And I'm going, I don't know. I said, I guess I'll get out. So I got out, and I got a job at a paper mill in Rochester. It'd been there since the 1800s. It was a grain mill at one time, and then it turned to a fabric mill, and then it turned to a paper mill. So I worked there for 24 years until it closed in 2002.
Now, what about your husband? What did he do? Did he get out at right around the same time?
Yep, he got out in 75, and I got out in 77. And he got lucky and got a on-the-job training for a nuclear med tech in Pontiac Osteopathic Hospital.
Wow. Now, was it right around this time that you folks landed in Lake Orion?
Yep, we landed in Lake Orion. It was, I had showed horses, and I knew this woman that lived in Lake Orion, and there was a house that came up for sale. And we went and looked at it. We were still both in the service, and put a bid in it, got this house, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, boy. Now, how did you get interested in horses? Did you have horses back on the farm?
On the farm, yep. We had horses on the farm. I showed horses in 4-H, showed palominos, and that's how I got to go to Oklahoma to do, represent the state of Michigan in 1970. Went down there and went with all the other kids from this, from around this country, and we all showed horses and had a great time, and that's how I got involved with that.
Now, when the paper company closed down, did you pursue another occupation after that?
I did. I worked for a place called Dong Communications in Lake Orion. I ran their warehouse for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're an active hunter and an active sportswoman.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of the elk hunting that you do.
I went elk hunting a couple, 3 years ago into Colorado. I've always wanted to go, and I had another girl from Oxford that actually, Georgie Norris, went with me, and it was an experience. We didn't know if we'd get an elk, and we weren't sure what to do, but we got a guide, and we did see elk, and we seen some other, seen a mule deer and some antelope, which I've never really seen in real life. We never got a shot, but it was a great experience, just wonderful out there.
The scenery was probably really nice.
It was beautiful out there, just gorgeous. We drove out there and back, and just the country is so pretty out there. And we went to Pikes Peak. We went early and had days to go to Colorado Springs and Pikes Peak and through some of their canyons out there and stuff. So we had a great, great time.
What about fishing?
Oh, fishing? Well, I went last week, and I went to Lake Huron. We went, my boyfriend and I went out there, and we got some lake trout, some steelhead and walleye, and that's our second trip this summer we've gone. And then we do small fishing, and we ice fish in the wintertime.
Wow. I'll tell you, you're on the move all the time, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I like doing that.
How did you get interested in the VFW?
Chris and I had gone to lunch one day, and they had been selling poppies and never even thought about the VFW, and they sat across from us and we were talking, and Ernie Baker said, well, you ought to become a member. I said, well, I don't know if we're...
And this was when?
Oh, boy. About 2000, I believe. And Chris said, I don't know if I want to belong. I said, oh, we'll check it out. So we checked it out. We put our apps in, and Chris became a life member, and I just joined for the year. And I said, oh, we'll see. And then when he got Agent Orange and passed away, I needed something to do in my life, and so I got very active and became a life member of Post 334, and volunteered to be the service officer. And to me, that's like a calling. I really enjoy doing that job.
Did your experience with your husband having Agent Orange inspire you at all to do what you do?
Yes, because I also lost 2 cousins from Agent Orange. They're both Lake Orion residents. Two Agent Orange that met within the last 2 months. So, and they were young, my age.
What we haven't talked about is you had another tour of duty in the service.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I joined the reserves in '93, and
when did your husband pass away?
He passed away in 2005.
Okay, so he was still living when you joined the second time. Go ahead.
Yes. And our group got stationed in Bairang, and I was a storekeeper, which means we did supplies, set up tents, whatever the units needed, we set up, or we unloaded and loaded planes, and that's what we did in Bairang. We unloaded and loaded cargo planes, mostly C-131s, to supply the base that was there on the island and the ships that were either coming in port or leaving port. We would supply all their needs. Hot, very hot there.
I'll bet it was. How'd your husband feel about that you went back home?
He was supportive, because he said, well, he told me, he said, you should have done it when you first got out, then you would have had your 20 years. And I'm going, oh yeah, but it happened. And I'm glad I went. It was it's a culture shock there, going there. Time change. It was totally different from over there, compared to here.
Anything that really hit you over the head after that tour of duty?
Yes, I came back, and my 25th class reunion was coming up, and everybody got to write a paper, and I told them how lucky we were to be living here in this country.
Yeah.
If
you had it to do over again, would you make any changes?
I would have done 20 years. We wouldn't have bought the house. I'd have done 20 years. Because I really loved the service. I loved the Navy. I loved what I did. The people were great. It was a great experience.
Well, you're a special lady. We're honored to have you in our community. Thank you for your service to our country. And
you're welcome.
Thank you for your service to the residents here of our area. And thanks for being on my show, too.
Thank you.
Roberta Salisbury. We'll see you next time.
The Agent Orange Education Program is coming to the Oxford area. Presented by the Vietnam Veterans of America and Christ the King Church in Oxford. Learn about the health risks of Agent Orange exposure at the Agent Orange Town Hall. October 24th at Christ the King Church, 1550 West Drainer Road. Registration at 11 a.m. and Town Hall at noon.
Take off your hat, throw them coat on. Take off your